Directed by David Fincher from a screenplay by his father, Jack Fincher, Mank is the story of an alcoholic screenplay writer, Herman J. Mankiewicz, played by Gary Oldman. We follow Mank through two parts of his life, 1930s Hollywood and 1940, writing the screenplay for what would become Citizen Kane. The film begins in 1940. Orson Welles, played by Tom Burke, recruits a washed-up Mank to write the screenplay. The 1940s plot line gives us the insight into Mank's inspiration for the Citizen Kane script, particularly the relationship between actress Marion Davies, played by Amanda Seyfried, and Charles Dance, played by William Randolph Hearst. Mank drinks so much, it's hard to really imagine him remembering much of the 1930s, but he appears to have drawn inspiration from his cloudy alcoholic memory. The film was a technical marvel, right down to the sound design. There's an abundance of references to classic Hollywood, which came off as dense, but it was hard to look away. Tyler, how did you feel about the film?
So I do have to have a confession here. I actually haven't seen Citizen Kane. I know for a lot of people that's kind of a sin, but going into Mank, I had a very unique perspective, and I was very curious to know what this film was about. Some would say it's the making of Citizen Kane, or the man behind the making of Citizen Kane. Overall, my impressions, I liked it. It was fine. It's definitely a film that I can foresee not being as accessible to a general audience. Some people have asked, do I need to have seen Citizen Kane? Do I have to have some knowledge? I think a lot of the things that would make the film more, I don't want to say necessarily enjoyable, but more, I guess, impactful to some extent, you would probably want to have that context. Aside from it, this is, I would say, a pretty good biopic. I have some thoughts regarding the character of Mank, or the depiction of Mank.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you like, Daniel, about the film, and what didn't you like, if there was anything you didn't like?
Yeah, the Citizen Kane thing, I feel like it covers more about the writer Mankiewicz. We're kind of just following him. It's sort of like a docudrama, or the first 20 minutes though, they really fly by, and you feel like the elder Finch's dialogue, Jack Fincher's dialogue, it's really funny. Like, I thought it was actually more humorous than I expected.
Is there a particular exchange that comes to mind?
Well, Mankiewicz seems like he was such a witty person, being such a talented writer and a troubled, with the demons of alcoholism and such, that, he just had some witty lines. I can't remember them, but they were just really quick, quip and witty. Do you remember any lines?
I thought Gary Oldman did a really good job. I think Gary Oldman's the type of actor that is like a chameleon. He can pretty much immerse himself into a particular character, and he's consistent and very believable. Personally, when it came to Mank, I'm a little bit, he's not the most likable person, and I think that could be problematic for a lot of audiences. For me, I was somewhat invested in his journey and the things that he was a part of. But for somebody, as to some extent, I would suggest self-absorbed as he was, and kind of off-puttingly, very selfish. I think a lot of that will be kind of picked up by some audiences, and it could detract audiences. But that doesn't necessarily take away from the film as a whole. The reality is that he might not have been the most likable person. So good on for Gary Oldman for depicting that. He did a really good job at doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's not the most likable. And I went in expecting there to be more behind the scenes of, like, maybe him working with Orson Welles more on the script or something, or some more like behind the scenes of Citizen Kane. So I don't know necessarily if you have to have seen Citizen Kane to get something out of it. It might be more rewarding, actually, if you know more about the classic history of Hollywood. I would say this is more of a callback to historians of film, because there's so many references that I don't even know, and I went to film school.
And with Mank being on Netflix, streaming on Netflix, I had the luxury of being in the comfort of my own place. And one of the things I did find myself was, looking at Wikipedia, Googling, okay, who is this person? anytime I did have to have a bathroom break, I would just kind of Google, okay, who was Thurberg? I think the gentleman, that he's one of the executives. He does die early, prematurely. I had to look him up, just kind of think to myself, oh wow, just kind of getting myself acclimated to the world, and a lot of things might fly over your head. You might have more of an appreciation if you are in tune with that classic Hollywood, if that's something that interests you. One thing that I would say that David Fincher did an excellent job with is you mentioned the technicality, creating that world. It was so believable. It really reminded me of kind of what Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So many details, and they really captured every set piece, even the shots. I would say like the way the framing, the way the lighting is more an homage to Citizen Kane than the actual film. Like the script is, I would say, like the way it was filmed was more.
Absolutely. So case in point, there's driving sequences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely does look like there's this background curtain with like a playing image. It had that kind of old timey film feel, and even the audio, which initially took me back a little bit. It definitely felt very airy and very old, and so I appreciated that, and I think that's something that the filmmakers, the people can be applauded for. I enjoyed it, the authenticity to the world and to the feel that pulled me in. It was very
and there's even like the little bubble of film or scratches once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The part that I love the first 20 minutes, and then it starts getting into like this politics discussion and
Mm-hmm.
I guess sort of this library type thing, or I forgot whose house it's at, but that's when it's sort of kind of losing me. But that was to establish, how Mank kind of rubbed people the wrong way. He just said what he thought, and he did not.
He was an
care.
outsider.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he was a playwright that was brought in to help with the film industry, because there was a new technology, the talkies.
Mm-hmm.
Actors and actresses needed to speak. As the film was evolving, they needed to make sure that they were, bringing in, storytellers. And one of the scenes that I did like was when they're having a pitch meeting, and they're talking about this monster feature. And I thought those little tidbits of Hollywood and stuff like that was really fascinating. One of the things narrative-wise that I did pick up on was that very rarely did we actually kind of pull away from Mank. There's the character who's the scribe for Mank, played by Lily Collins.
Mm-hmm.
There's a particular, I honestly was kind of like thinking to myself, we were going to maybe spend some time following her journey, because I think early on in the film, it kind of establishes that relationship. There's like some tension but that doesn't really go anywhere. It's not fully developed. And Mank does say at one point in time that you really can't capture, the true, genuine depiction of a person in 2 hours. All you can do is create an impression. And so, I think Fincher succeeds on that. I think there's some particular character threads that I really wanted to see more of.
Yeah, I did too. I wanted to see more of like an emotional connection, I would say.
Yeah.
You kind of got there at the end a little bit, but I wanted more. I wanted more interaction with Orson. I wanted, more of what he does when he walks in smash face. Spoilers. He walks in smash face, and does that at the dinner party and just crashes the whole thing with what he says.
Great scene, by the way. I really enjoyed that.
I wanted more moments like that. I thought the cast was great. I mean, the performances were great all around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gary Oldman. I wouldn't say he's a shoo-in for Best Actor, but I definitely think he's going to get a nomination. I think the film will garner some nominations technically. The score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, I thought was great. It definitely lent itself to creating, the feeling of the world and just kind of propelling some of that tension and that action. Honestly, I think Amanda Seyfried was really great as Mary Davies, the mistress to Mr. Hearst. But Charles Dance, gosh, I thought he was incredible. I would suggest he's probably got maybe somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes of screen time. But that last exchange, and I won't go into spoilers because I thought it was just so good, and it was composed in a really excellent way, and it was placed in honestly, I feel like he's going to get, I would be shocked if he's not at least nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He was phenomenal. I would dare say might actually have done a better job than Gary Oldman. I know that sounds, whoa, shots fired, perhaps, but I really enjoyed Charles Dance. I think he did an excellent job.
I think Dance did a great job too. I wouldn't say that he did better than Oldman. I think, Oldman has more to work with. Yes.
I mean, the film is Mank, so I mean, yeah, we're going to definitely get as much Oldman as possible. And Oldman is an incredible actor. I think he played the role really well. I wouldn't be surprised if he at least not nominated. If he didn't at least win, get nominated.
And that's a good point you make about going back to what your Lily Collins point, where a lot of biopics go through like the outsider coming into the character. A lot of biopics follow that story where if we did follow her story of being hired on to be like a dictator to his writing. Yeah. That's how most biopics go. This one's more, in my opinion, more like a documentary because we're kind of just present with Mank, which for better or worse, that's where I feel like more worse because of the emotional connection was off at some points.
There's an excellent scene with Lily Collins' character where she's having a conversation with, I believe it's a German immigrant who's helping Mank, right? And she's giving reason as to Lily Collins. Like the camera's like no longer like revolved around Mank. Like we are, for one of the very few times we're not around Mank where the camera's here. And so I thought that was really fascinating. And I just thought, okay, well, we were going to maybe go somewhere with this the character that Lily Collins was playing. But, for a film, as Mank, with dealing with all these different people and personalities, it's going to be hard to be able to, have fully developed arcs. So
how did you feel about the scene where I think they were dumping the alcohol and his wife comes in and is like, no, he needs it? How did you feel about that relationship with Mank and his wife? About the alcoholism. Do you think that she was like maybe enabling him too much, or she just knows how he is?
Well, one of the things I think about is, because he kept it, with throughout his own insecurity and his own flaws. He keeps asking her, "What are you doing with a schmutz or a schnutz like me?" And she repeatedly says, "Well, honestly, I'm not really sure." And I think if it's not until the very end, and I don't know if this is like a sick sense of like being a person, but like she's like, I'm just curious to see how it all comes to be. Like she's fascinated by Mank.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, man. Like I'm not here to ask her if she really loves him or like I don't know, is that healthy, unhealthy? We won't have that discussion, but it does kind of peter towards, in my opinion, I think it's a bit unhealthy. So. I mean, she does enable him,
Yeah.
And she willingly, she kind of keeps herself in that position. And I don't know if that's a testament to the struggles that particularly wives might have had during that time in that position. I don't know. I mean, I think if anything, not that I would judge her as a person, but maybe that's just how things were, played out.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think Mank gives off this kind of vibe of the room, like he becomes a center of attention no matter where he's at. What did you think of the ending scene with Orson and Mank?
I thought it was fine. It was really nice to actually see Orson and Mank in the same room. We do kind of get a glimpse of that when there's an incident at the very beginning. There's the meeting of the two at the hospital. But I thought it lent itself to just the pre-production aspect of Citizen Kane, where Gary Oldman's character, Herman Mankiewicz, that'll be a great
Exactly. He's instead of reacting to Orson's outburst, he's like, "Hey, this is great."
Yeah, exactly. It just goes to it just lends itself more to the person of who Herman Mankiewicz was, and even at the very end, when he's accepting the award on behalf of Best Original Screenplay, and I'm paraphrasing, I think he says something to the extent of, "The rest is magic." About, well, why is Orson Welles getting the other half, and he's kind of a sore loser or sore winner.
Mm-hmm.
To something, but that's Mankiewicz. That's the person.
Well, yeah, because Orson was coming over to buy him out from the studio.
It was,
and Mank to this point, he didn't really get recognized. Credits were kind of stricter than nowadays. Everybody gets credit now. Back then, there wasn't as many credits. Like, I think Mankiewicz, even he actually he wrote a little bit of Wizard of Oz, but he was uncredited for it.
Okay.
And they kind of hint at that. They kind of hint at that when Mank's like, "Oh, that stupid wizard movie," or whatever.
He might have been maybe like a consultant or something.
Yeah, I think he did a draft on it, and they just didn't give him credit. Wow. Where nowadays they credit every writer, and this is kind of when the origin of the guild too, the Writers Guild.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I found that interesting too.
There's all these little details and nuances that unless you're familiar with or at least interested, you probably won't be able to pick up elsewhere. I think a lot of people that I've kind of looked at were having some problems with it being boring. They just probably aren't as invested in those little things. But I think if you are familiar with those things, this is a film that's going to be right up your alley.
Yeah, I would recommend Mank, basically because of the technicalities, the cast performances, and the witty dialogue. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. I would recommend it. It's a somewhat of a soft recommendation. I enjoyed it. It's probably not a film that I'm going to be rewatching again and again. But if I were to put like a number on it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7.5, and that includes some aspects related to the kind of the story, some things that I might have wanted more of, and then just accessibility. Not to say it's a bad film. It's a good film. I think it's gonna be around for a little while. But yeah, I would give it a recommendation too.
Yes, it's probably one of the best of the year because there's not very many to choose from. But
yeah, no, that's very true.
But I would give it a little higher. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, cool! Awesome, man.
Yeah. It's definitely worth seeing once. So if you have Netflix, check it out. Mank.
Check it out. Mank, directed by David Fincher. And if you're a Fincher fan, you got to see it. You got to see it.
Where does this rank on your Finchers as of now? Like, is it middle of the road? Kind of.
Definitely not in the top 3. It hasn't hit the top 3. It's probably middle of the road. It's probably middle of the road. Yeah, might be. It's no Alien 3. It's no Panic Room. But it's probably middle of the road.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Well, how about for you, man? Where does that kind of sit for you?
Probably number 3 for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. I didn't like Gone Girl. I like Zodiac and Fight Club.
Okay.
7 is dropped for me because of the Kevin Spacey stuff. But
oh man, yeah. It's hard watching a film. I love American Beauty. I loved it growing up, and now that it's recontextualized, it's
I know.
I'll just leave it at that. But it definitely, you got to kind of, where do we separate the person and the art? And
I know
that could be another conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for watching. This has been Friends by Film, our Mank review.
Absolutely. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you for joining us.
And we'll be launching a Facebook page soon, so stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. We'll have to have some stuff in the description. You can find me on Twitter at Tyler_Pacholski. That's PACHOLSKI.
Yeah, I forgot the old. Where can we find you, Tyler?
That's totally cool, man. Hey, man, I'm just leading you into that. Daniel, where can we find you? Where can we engage with you? I am at PoliPictures, POLI Pictures, right here. YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, everything. Awesome, dude.
All right. Thank you, guys. Stay tuned.
Signing off.